Everybody, happy Sunday to everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Trust you're all doing great. It's another beautiful Sunday. Today is the first Sunday of the month of May. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another episode of the Sunday Business Lessons. Let me allow people to join us. Let's have another fantastic session. You know, I used to come live. I had a program called She Ambassador Daily Teachings. um, I was in beats. And then I had to re-strategize, structure, and then Sundays I've been coming live. And then I started a program, an IG program, 4 Saturdays ago called Conversations with CEOs. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's another episode of Sunday Business Lessons. Kindly type Sunday Business Lessons in the comment section. Type Sunday Business Lessons in the comment section. Kindly power tap your screen and share the link. Invite your friends. Let's have another convo. When it comes to business building, what are your thoughts? What are your real-time thoughts? What do you think about business building? I didn't come up with that book. You know, one of the books I've been reading is a book titled Profit First. And it's really shifting my mindset, as far as the rudiments of business building is concerned. Most of us came into business, haven't been raised by the doctrines of religion, and we carried forward the doctrine of religion into business to the point where we will do and do and do and do zero profit, zero income, but we'll keep doing because they're like, you don't know when profit will come. That book has really, really changed my mindset. I kid you not. I started reading it, I think last week, as part of, one of the 3 books I'm reading, and it's really a phenomenal book. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, I recommend that you get that book. You know what? Let me just quickly get. This book will open your eyes to certain things that you didn't understand in business. Profit first. It is a revolutionary book. I kid you not. It will help you reposition how you run businesses. You know, how that you can start making profit from the very beginning. This one is not, oh, you want to run the business for 6 months first. You want to run the business for 12 months first. No, that is slavery, right? One of the things that has dawned on me more than ever before is that no amount of ingenuity, no amount of ingenuity, or talent, or passion, or skill will change the fact that cash is still king. No amount of ingenuity, no amount of brilliance, of talent, of skill, of passion that would change the fact that cash is king. If you're running a business that isn't cash flowing in any way, you're running a hobby. You're not running a business. And you see, one of the very, very important things that I encourage, young entrepreneurs, young business people to be deliberate about mastering is, self-worth, self-discovery, which was why I wrote my first book, right? Personal Discovery Secrets. Yeah, this book will help shift your mindset about self-discovery, and you'll be able to set up the solid enough foundation that you need to power an unshakable business. Because the reason why you'll be finding it difficult to get people to pay you for the value offerings of your business is because you have low self-esteem. It's because you have not discovered yourself. That is why you would have a business, a solution that you claim, what you claim is a solution, but you can't get people to pay you. You are literally praying for them to just take the discretion. I mean, it doesn't happen in business anyways. I've been in business long enough to know that it never happens. People are not going to take the discretion to transact with you. You are the one to set up the structure and the system that will get them to want to transact with you. And the first important aspect of your business system, of your business structure, is your self-worth. I tell people that your bank account is a reflection of your self-worth. Your bank account, it's a different ballgame. Maybe you had whatever 6 million naira in your bank account, and you had to do a deal of 5.8 million, or a deal of whatever, maybe almost 6 million naira. And then after that deal, you are now left with, maybe like 30,000 naira. It's a different ballgame. But day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, the highest amount of money in your account is 100K, 50K. It is a reflection of your self-worth. And you need to work on your self-worth. See, the world is powered by transactions. Don't let anybody bamboozle you, even if you are new in business. The world is powered by transactions. And if that is true, then why should you not be proactive about getting people to pay you for what you offer? I've seen people who they're talented, skillful, highly skillful, and they are doing stuff for people and they're not paying them. They are taking advantage of the fact that they have a very, very low self-worth, a very, very low self-esteem. Truth be told, I am very audacious about getting people to pay me for whatever it is that I'm offering them. But there are more people who have turned me down than the number of people who have paid me. But it doesn't matter. It's part of the game. If, for instance, my books have sold almost 1,000 copies. That is almost 1,000 people who transacted with me. My first book started selling at 5,000 naira. Then it moved to 7.5. Then it moved to 10,000. Then finally it moved to 15,000 for the soft copy. The hard copy is 24,000. But whatever the price that they bought it for, I ask them to pay. I ask them to buy the book. That's almost 1,000 people. And the majority of those copies are even soft copies. The copies that I sold of the hard copy of the two books is, I think, 400, 300 copies, because you know this one I only printed 100 copies of this one. It was the second one I printed 200 copies. So in total, I've only printed 300 physical copies of my two books. Yet I've sold almost 1,000 copies. It means that almost 700 copies, PDF copies, were sold. What about people who have acquired real estate properties from me? What about people who have consulted with me? Do you know that my consulting company, I've consulted with about maybe like 30 something companies so far in the last 6 years? About 30 something companies. But do you know that I have spoken with more than 200, more than 300, more than 400 companies in the last 6 years to try to get them to do business with me, to try to get them to bring us on board as their consultants. And about 30 something out of over 400 companies that my team and I reached out to, about 30 something in the last 6 years. You can imagine if I did not, or if we did not try to speak with 400 people, do you think we would have gotten the 35 people that we have worked with so far? The world is powered by transactions. And if you are an entrepreneur, young or whatever age, because I've met people in their mid ages, in their 40s, in their 50s, and they are still, I can still see that they have low self-esteem. How now? Why? You mean that you have been here for 4 decades? You've been in this world for 5 decades and you are still suffering low self-esteem? If you are, then you need to get this book. You need to get Personal Discovery Secrets. I promise you, you wish you have gotten it since you were a teenager. Right? The fundamental mastery of the essence of financial security is achieved by realizing that you ought to save, you ought to be deliberate about keeping track of your income. You know, today is my elder sister's birthday, 60th birthday. She clocked 60 today. And I went to Shagamu for the birthday, to go felicitate with her, to go celebrate with her and all that, right? The guy that drove me, the guy was just lamenting about, how that he's in debt, his wife is disrespecting him, blah, blah, blah. And we had a long conversation, to and fro, very long conversation, right? And at some point, I was like, no matter the debts you are owing, it is highly important that every income that you generate, a fraction of it still goes into savings. And I told him about, my own personal story of how I was in debt, in millions of naira. And even whilst I was in that debt, I was saving money still. Because prior to my getting into debt, I was terrible with my finances. Terrible. Which was, of course, why I ended up in debt. A lot of young people do not realize that savings is a universal principle. A lot of people want to give themselves the excuse of how much am I even making? It is not about how much you save. It's about, first of all, cultivating the habit of savings. Right? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, realize that you are in the most important job on the planet. Entrepreneurs are the greatest of all superheroes because you are doing something very, very difficult. Most especially if you are in Nigeria and you did not come from wealth. It is super difficult. It is not something that you can do for the rest of your life. You have to start proactively planning for freedom, economic and financial freedom. And the starting point of freedom is savings. The starting point of financial freedom is savings. I remember back then when I'll be getting calls from different people I was owing, and maybe days will pass without me generating any income, sometimes even weeks. But the moment I generate one income like this, at that time, I will immediately just remove the fraction I want to, put away, because I had a particular account where I didn't have an ATM card for it. And then after I've removed it, then I now remove another fraction to pay some of the people I was owing, and it's just going to be a fraction of what I was owing. Do you know that a lot of people that you are owing, if you can just if you cannot show them commitment, that you are actually not wicked, but you are just not in a good place, economically and financially speaking. Let's say maybe you are owing someone 500,000 naira and you don't have the 500,000 naira. Do you know that if you tell the person that, can I be paying you 20,000 naira every month? Do you know that the person most likely will agree? Yes, it will take about 2 years to pay off the 500K. But you see, in the process of paying back, that person, in the process of paying back in fractions of 20,000 naira, it might get to a point where that person will see opportunities and think of you as someone who has integrity. I remember back then on campus when, I was owing some guys. I was owing one particular guy. And despite the fact that I made money over and over and over again at different times, I still did not pay the guy. It was a terrible. Of course, the monies I was making, most of them were going into church at that time. Fellowship. I was a major financier in fellowship. I will not think of the person I was owing to at least pay a fraction of that money. I'll carry all this money. I'll just go and use it for something in church, building projects, partnership. It was until it dawned on me that, is this not wickedness? This guy, actually, the way I got to owe the guy was on campus. One of the businesses I was doing was um, mobile electronics business, mobile phones, smartphones, laptops, desktop computers. So this guy gave me his laptop to sell, and then once I'm done selling, I can pay him his money. Guess what? I sold that laptop, and I went to use the money in my fellowship because there was building project happening at that time, and there was a rambling for money, rambling for funds. Because I was like, okay, I mean, other funds will come in, and it took months before I paid that guy back. And the way I paid him back was by paying him 10,000 naira, like every other month. It wasn't even every month. And I began to learn some principles there. There are people who, when they have needs, they cry to you. They tell you, please, I need this so amount of money. Month end, I'm going to pay you. Next month, I'm going to pay you. And then month end comes. They start pretending as if they don't know anything, as if they didn't borrow money from you. Another month comes. You pick up your phone to call them. They are behaving as if you are a bother to them. when they ought to be the ones to call you to inform you of why the time that they said they were going to pay, they didn't come through with that time. I learned this principle in 2012. Eventually learned the principle in 2012. When I read an article written on Facebook by the richest man in Zimbabwe, Dr. Strive Masiyiwa, the owner of Econet Group, right? Econet Wireless Group. The title of that article was Integrity, and you can see that I still remember. It was 2012, and it broke down the psychology of debt accumulation, right? Why a lot of people are in debt and why they are not able to come out of it. Because they have not been proactively cultivating integrity. Truth be told, I won't say I had real integrity when it came to money. I had to really start learning it in 2012. 2012, I was what, 27 years old. 27 years old was when I really started proactively learning integrity. And I started, proactively adjusting some things. See, lack of integrity really, really cost me in my entrepreneurial journey. It really cost me. And I really, really had to learn it the hard way. And I'm glad that I eventually learned it. Right? It doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes. It doesn't, in business, in entrepreneurship, it doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes. You will make mistakes. You might make mistakes. But what is important is how you respond to that mistake. At the end of the day, all business is a people business. Every business person, every entrepreneur are in people business. And seriously, I had to really learn it. And, began to proactively build my business in a way that it can lead to legacy results. Right? When it comes to integrity, financial integrity, it's a real big deal. I've met a lot of people whom, before money came into the equation, it looked like we were fine. But the moment money came into it, the beast in them got magnified, got exposed. That's why I usually like to just go to money business from the very get-go. Let me just get you exposed, and you too become exposed to me. Expose me because of the money, so that you know where I stand. Right? Now, when it comes to financial literacy, economic and financial literacy, it is a deliberate act. It is a deliberate skill you must master. Do you know that there's a sharp difference between making money, keeping money, controlling money, and growing money? There is a sharp difference between making money, keeping money, controlling money, and growing money. A big difference. But a lot of people only make money to spend money. They only make money to squander money, including people in business, including a lot of people in business. There is a difference between making money, keeping money, controlling money, and growing money. The highest use of money is for investment purposes. Any money that did not go into investments did not fulfill its highest purpose. The thing is, I was raised in an environment where they squander money. And by default, I learned how to squander money too. Money doesn't last with me. Money never used to last with me. It was after I clocked 30 plus that I actually began to really learn and implement economic and financial literacy. Right? See, in business, making profit first, removing profit first. Profit first is a principle that will revolutionize the way you do business. It will help you remove unnecessary baggage. The principle of profit first. You will use it with the way you operate in the marketplace, and you will use it in the way you operate your finance. When you make money, remove your profit first. I'm sure you've heard people say that, oh, entrepreneurs eat last. That is a very, very archaic principle. Entrepreneurs have done the work, they need to eat first. That is why 95% of all startups fail in the first 5 years, because they are not powering their enterprise or their business with profit first principle. Now, without a fundamental understanding of profitability, without understanding what profit is, profitability, every business, no matter how big, no matter how successful, is a house of cards. That is why businesses fail. Some even in 3 months, they have closed up shop. In 6 months, in 12 months. Because if you learn how to start making profit from the very beginning, you won't be surviving on a shoestring. Lack of financial literacy is guaranteed to drive you into a pit. Lack of financial literacy is guaranteed. Right? Your mantra in business is profit must happen now and always. See, I wasn't always like this. Just know. I was always the person who would be like, hustle, 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 no profit, zero. A lot of times, zero income. But day in, day out, I live for the hustle. Until I began to see that this model does not work. All it does is to lead you to a place of guaranteed frustration. See, you can't do guesswork in business. The most dangerous place to do guesswork is in business. You are already bringing water out of the rock. An entrepreneur in Nigeria is already bringing water out of the rock. You deserve your profitability from the very get-go. Profit must happen now and always. Profit must be baked into your business every day, every transaction, every moment. Because profit is not an event, it is a habit. Get in the habit of generating profit. You know, the mantra I was introduced to many years ago when I started my entrepreneurial journey was that, oh, you probably will build your business, for 6-12 months first without generating profit. You must just figure out how to make sure that the business remain in business. Reading this book has changed my mindset about that. And I mean, I started reading this book just last week. And I'm like, what? I wish I'd read this book 10 years ago. See, I refer to myself as a value merchant, a solutions architect. The question is, do I truly have the solution? Or am I just fooling myself? Because there are many people with claims, many so-called entrepreneurs with claims of offers that can change people's lives, but they are just claims. You pay for it, and they literally just block you because they know that they have sold you garbage. Now, if truly I have real solutions for sale, then I should have the audacity to position myself to get paid for that solution. We launched a campaign a few days ago, 2 days ago, energy consumption literacy campaign. It is a campaign that we are going to use to, in our own way, revolutionize the energy sector. Because as it is, today is 3rd of May 2026. Our energy is still archaic. Our energy infrastructure is still archaic. In the last, is it 20 years, the national grid has collapsed more than 500 times. Growing up, how many times would you hear the transformer blow? You just hear boom. How many times growing up? This is as a result of energy illiteracy. There is such a thing as energy illiteracy, which is the reason why we have officially launched an energy consumption literacy campaign. See, I've been interested in this thing since 2008, and I did not do much about it until a few months ago. Sometime last year, if I can, sometime 2024. I picked it up briefly in 2024. I dropped it again. Then sometime last year, I picked it up again, and I've been obsessed about it, which was eventually what led us to officially launching the campaign 2 days ago. Energy literacy is a thing. Energy literacy is something that every child, every adult needs to proactively get on their game off. Because that's the reason why the grid will keep collapsing. That's the reason why the transformer will keep blowing up. Because the vast majority of us are energy illiterate. Right? I've been contemplating the solutions, the energy solutions. Smart grids, decentralized grids, grids that does not need to be central. Energy consumption doesn't need to come from a central place, a national central place. It can be decentralized, right? And I was talking about how that for as long as you truly have real solutions as a business person, as an entrepreneur, to offer the marketplace, you can position to start generating revenue from the very get-go. From the very get-go. The issue with most new entrepreneurs, new business persons, is lack of self-worth. And of course, there are other things like communication, understanding, market dynamics and things of that nature. But fundamentally, it is either lack of value or lack of self-worth or both. And for as long as you're operating from a place of lack of self-worth, lack of self-discovery, you are going to be intimidated by the marketplace. Because see, every entrepreneur, every business person started on one particular day. They were newcomers to their industry, to their markets. And every kid in the block, or every kid on the block, would always be bullied by the people who have been on the scene before that new kid on the block, came on the scene of the market. People bullied me when I came into the real estate industry. People bullied me when I came into the consulting industry. Now I'm in the family office space. I'm seeing some subtle jabs that some people are throwing at me. I don't care. I have self-worth. Now I'm also incorporating energy because I see that all of the parastatals in charge of it have done very, very woeful jobs. How many billions of dollars have been spent on power supply? Right now, I'm using a generator. Woeful job, right? So, for someone like me with an engineering mind, I can take up the challenge, and I've taken up the challenge. We are starting off with commercial buildings, industrial buildings. Let's start from there. So that's where we can generate a good enough revenue that will create buffer for us to be able to now also include residential. Because residential is not for profits. Your home is not for profits. So the energy you generate in your home is not because you want to use it to run your business, except for people like us that work from home, right? But typically, residential is not commercial, which is why we are focusing on commercial and industrial buildings, right? By the end of this year, we will have had enough data to call the bluff of certain so-called giants of the industry. I am 41 years old. I've not seen any kind of energy data before in my life from all the people that have supplied us electric power supply. Apart from the NEPA bill that they bring. NEPA bill is just basically a tool, an instrument for collection, for collecting their money. It's not anything I know about energy. I learned it independently of all these discourse. NEPA, BDC, IKDC, Ikeja Distribution Company, Benin Distribution Company, and the rest. None of them, we have paid millions of naira over the years to these companies. There is no single one of them that has sent us a report of our energy consumption because they don't even have the infrastructure for it. Whereas when people know how they consume energy, they can begin to be proactive about that consumption. That consumption, what's the word now? Tracking of their energy consumption. They can begin to track their energy consumption. Beyond just the tracking of the energy consumption, is also to track inefficient consumption. Do you know that a lot of the electric power that is being supplied to us are dirty electricity, that is even shortening the lifespan of our electronics? You see a surge happen and 5 electronics in your house get burnt because there is no efficiency in the distribution, in the supply. This is how you are going to proactively hold these people accountable. See, I don't talk for many years. I am now taking charge. As a matter of fact, on campus, when I went to university, it was actually electronics engineering I wanted to study. I've been fascinated by electricity since I was a child. And guess what? I did not really do nothing with it, about it, until I crossed 40. What kind of thing is this? Maoga, how you doing, sir? Dr. Kazim, I see you. Right? See, there are different ways, there are different loopholes in different industries. See, when you see me get involved in the different industries I've gotten myself involved in, it was because I kept seeing the loopholes lingering year on year, year on year, and I'm like, but they are professionals in this industry. I'm like, I can't just open my eyes and just leave the loopholes. I ventured into those industries. Why did I come into the real estate industry in 2019? Because in 2017, a friend of mine reached out to me, wanting me to help him investigate his own family that he has been sending millions of naira to for a development project that he suspects that they have not done anything with all the money he has sent. So he had to reach out to me in 2017, and he got me to travel from Akure, that was where I was still living there, all the way to Warri to go meet his family, to introduce myself as his partner, as his business partner, because he wanted to build a warehouse, a big warehouse, and he also wanted to build blocks of apartments on that land. It was supposed to be a 1-acre piece of land. I got there. This people didn't even buy a plot of land. That was when the real seed of interest of coming into real estate began to be sown in me. And then eventually I came in 2019. Guess what? As I came in 2019, it was part of these loopholes, were part of the things that I started addressing first. The first 9-10 months of my being in real estate, all I was doing was carrying out due diligence on real estate companies, because I already knew the ones that I was not going to do business with even before I came in. So those ones I already knew about them. So they were automatically in my in my blacklist of companies not to do, real estate companies not to do business with. And then more made it into that blacklist. Guess what? From 2019 and now, none of my investors, none of my clients have lost money to any real estate company. Because from that time till now, due diligence is my forte. When I came into the real estate industry in 2019, there was a particular brokerage firm that I was really doing stuff with. I realized that there was one of the companies that they were listing properties for that I knew, that I've known since 2000 and what? 2007. I've known that man since 2007. I came into the industry as of 2007, it was not in real estate anyways. I came into the industry in 2019 and I saw that they were selling the properties of that particular company. I said, I know this man. I can never sell his property. I've known him for years. I know that he's not a man of integrity. And I told the owners of that brokerage firm, all right, because I had access to them. I used to visit their offices and all of that. I told them about him, that I know this man. I will never sell his property. And they were like, what do I know? With me that I just came into the industry. I said, anyways, no problem. Suit yourself. 1 year later, they had issues with that guy because of his properties. He had a particular estate that didn't have more than 100, maybe 100 plus plots, and he sold over 300 plots of that same estate. Some of you might have stumbled upon when they were dragging his company everywhere on the internet a few years ago. He had made it into my black. He was part of the first set of people that made it into my blacklist because I knew it. Loopholes. The reason I came into the industry and I grew very fast was because I already latched on the loophole that I wanted to address. And so one of the things I was known for in the industry is being, they nicknamed me the king of due diligence. Because I can carry out due diligence on any company, any entity, any individual. And my due diligence is always savage. Right? So I said all of that to just explain why, if you are able to identify the loophole of any industry, that is how you are going to stop being the new kid on the block very fast. You won't see me be advertising properties online, for instance, on my social media account, you won't see me post properties. But I've sold more properties than a lot of people who post properties all the time. Because I am solving a particular problem. 2019, when I came into the industry, I was using Clubhouse a lot, even though I didn't really sell that 2019. But I was using it for a lot of awareness, a lot of positioning. That some people that knew me from Clubhouse eventually came to meet me on TikTok and bought property on the basis of the fact that I've been consistent since 2019. I actually took TikTok seriously in 2022. So that's like 3 years since I've been doing what I was doing in the real estate industry. But you see, there were certain things that I did then that if I knew better, I would not have done that the way I did them. I would have been able to generate, revenue way earlier because I was more of thinking, oh, I need to build trust first and things of that nature. And so I was leaving a lot of money on the table. I spent hours upon hours upon hours on Clubhouse that year. Guess what? I mean, for almost 1 year of actively using Clubhouse, I didn't sell one plot of land. Because I was not at that time, I was not deploying the profit first principle. I was still using the mediocre principle of build trust first. As important as trust building is, do you realize that you really don't build trust? A trustworthy person is not built by you. You discover a trustworthy person. You discover a trustworthy person. When people say things like, oh, you betrayed my trust in you. No, they were not trustworthy to begin with. You did not do your proper assignment of discovering a trustworthy person. Trust is built from childhood. It is difficult for someone to become trustworthy if they were not raised in an environment of trust. If they didn't watch their parents, their elders display trust, it's almost impossible for them to become trustworthy. That is something I've learned in life. So you find a trustworthy person. You don't build trust, really. How do you really build trust? Can anybody explain how trust is built? How can two people be married? The guy that drove me to Shagamu today was lamenting 20-year relationship with his wife. And the wife has been throwing tantrums all through this year, since last year till this year. Almost literally poisoned him. 20-year relationship. Okay, is trust not supposed to have been built? You don't build trust. You find a trustworthy person. That is part of your job as an adult. That is part of your job as a forward-thinking, progressive mind. Don't stop kidding yourself. There is nothing like building trust in adults. That's why people lose money all the time. Your job is to learn the science of due diligence. People who can stick with you through thick and thin. People who have been whom trust have been built in. Those are the kind of people that you should find. It's nothing like I'm still observing you. You're not gonna find anything. You're not gonna find anything important. I know how to identify trust in people. I know how to do it. I can meet you today and I can tell if you're a trustworthy person or not. I don't need weeks. I don't need years. I was raised by a man whom, I saw him today. Whom it's just that he's terrible with money, but he's somebody that you can trust with your life. That's the kind of man I was raised by. And that's the reason why, when it comes to loyalty, when it comes to trust, I don't joke with it at all because the foundation has been laid in me in the first 2 decades of my life. So even in business, I've seen people who started partnerships together in business and they literally today are sworn enemies after they went their separate ways. It's because they didn't understand the yardstick. Nobody taught them. They just have powered their life on the back of naivety. See, business is war. I've said it time and time again. Entrepreneurship is warfare, just as life is warfare. I have seen people with family members who do not like their stars, who are envious of them, family members. I've seen it personally from some of my family members. I think it's just recently that a lot of my family members started warming up to me. Back in the day, when I was still on my entrepreneurial journey, early days, you know, the things I was doing, the audacity. I boarded my first flight as an orphan in 200 level in 2008. And my first flight was an international flight. 200 level boy. Audacity. Before I clocked 30, I'd traveled to 14 countries before I clocked 30. That is the kind of entrepreneurial sagacity you need. See, also, if you want to build a legacy business, you can't build a legacy business alone. You need the right set of people. You need to literally hunt down the right set of people. I've been betrayed before. It does not mean that I'm still not positioning myself to find the right people, because I have visions that I've not even touched, simply because I've not found the right people. I'm still positioning this energy path that my team and I are embarking on now. It's another thing. I'm going to be partnering with the right people. Of course, my partnership now is going to be way better than before now, right? When I was naive, when I was gullible, I remember my first company that I started in 2014. It was the members of my cell in church that I brought in. I was one doing everything in terms of getting clients. They were just there, because I just chose them on the basis of naivety. When I was supposed to figure out the people who have the capacity to play certain roles. I just said, oh, they're my comrades. They're my members. They're my right hand men and women, right hand men and ladies. And eventually, I shut down that company in December 2017. Ran the company for 4 years at ground. To even say I ran it at ground is an overstatement. See, it didn't even lift off the ground. Maybe in that 4 years, I made a total of maybe 500,000 naira in 4 years. Consulting company, something that some people will make in one second, maybe 1 nanosecond. Took 4 years, and I still ended up in a terrible, terrible economic, standing. It was at that time I was in debt of over 4 million. December 2017, I was in debt of over 4 million, and I carried it over into 2018. Right? In business, economic and financial literacy is super important. If you are not proactive about cultivating economic and financial literacy, you are doing yourself and your future a great deal of disservice. You are not going anywhere in business, in entrepreneurship, without economic and financial literacy. Trust me. Trust me. I don't care how much money you make. You are not going anywhere without economic and financial literacy. Are you aware that you make enough money, or that you have enough money in your bank account, does not mean that you don't have money problems? More than 98% of the adult population of this world have money problems. More than 90% of the people of this world have never read a book on money. If you have ever read a book from cover to cover on the subject of money, tell us the title of that book in the comment section. If you have ever read any book on the subject of money from cover to cover, tell us the title of that book in the comment section. Let us carry out a litmus test with the few people that are here right now. The first time I ever read any book on money was 2004. I was 19 years old. And the title was The Richest Man in Babylon. That's the first book. That same year, I read As a Man Thinketh. I won't really say that's a book on money, but at least it was a book on psychology, right? And money is psychology. There's such a thing as psychology of money. It's actually a book titled Psychology of Money. That same year, I read The Science of Getting Rich. That same year, I read Think and Grow Rich. Those were the books that set the foundation of my money consciousness cultivation. But guess what? Even though I read those books at that time, it did not really translate to my reality until more than a decade later. The vast majority of the adult population, the vast majority of entrepreneurs and business people are economic and financial illiterates. See, how do you become an economic and financial literate? Reading, see, I can give you titles. Reading the right books on money. The Science of Getting Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, Acres of Diamond, Think and Grow Rich, Money, Master the Game, Principles by Ray Dalio, The Millionaire in You, The Millionaire Next Door. These are books that I've read that really helped me to make a shift, from poverty consciousness to wealth consciousness. And I'm still working on it. I'm still working on my mind. Because the truth of the matter, the truth of the reality of established consciousness is that the consciousness that you were raised by in the first 2 decades of your life is most likely going to remain with you to the day you die. The only way it will change is if you are radical about upturning that established consciousness. The programming you were raised by in the first 2 decades of your life is most likely going to remain with you till the day you die, except you are a radical learner. You are radical about your self-development, very radical, and I say very radical. If you're just a superficial someone, if you only have superficial relationship with learning, you are just going to be trying to put band-aids on your injury. It will never heal. Most of us were raised with mediocre programming around money. And until you have proactively uninstalled that programming, it will remain with you as an entrepreneur, as a business person. You will keep sabotaging your economic and financial opportunities. I mean, I did it for years. I remember the first almost 1 million naira, because I like to say my first 1 million naira, but it was actually 930,000. But I like to round it up to 1 million. I made my first almost 1 million naira as an undergraduate in the university. I kid you not, that money did not last 1 month, only 2 months in my hand. Students, 100 level students. And of course, most of the money was church that collected it from me. Because I was an economic and financial illiterate, One of the most important skill of the 21st century, a must-have, is economic and financial literacy. If I ask you right, see, nobody typed anything in the comment section. You see, it shows that, see, if you're 21 years and above, if you're in your 20s, in your 30s, and your 40s, and you know me, and you join my life, and I say something and you don't respond, it simply means that you are not in alignment. You are not in alignment with the caliber of people that I can do stuff with. I ask a simple question. If you've ever read a book on the subject of money, tell us the title in the comment section. And not one person has typed anything. I'm reading the autobiography of Femi Otedola. Is it Make It Big, or what is the title again? Make It Big. Because I am proactive about my money game. If you have been sabotaged by your own parents, by the ignorant parenting you were raised by, the onus is now on you. I don't care how old you are, even if you are in your 50s. If you have not proactively alchemized your programming into the programming of economic and financial literacy, trust me, the programming you have is a programming of poverty, and it will keep sabotaging you. I don't care whether you have business or businesses or you're an entrepreneur, for as long as it is the programming of poverty that is still intact in your psyche, it is guaranteed. It has been sabotaging you. All the times that you have been thinking that it's some enemy or village people or whoever, it is your own program, your own installed programming that has been sabotaging, and you need to address it. You need to uninstall that programming. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere in business. You're not going to go anywhere in entrepreneurship. There are people who know me, who know my background, who know when I was stuck, when I was in shit. A lot of them have wondered how I've been able to do the things I've done. It is because I have deliberately dealt with poverty programming. Are you aware that even religion is a culprit to the programming of poverty that has been installed in you? If you're an entrepreneur and you have not worked on your mind, you have not worked on your psyche, you have not worked on your psychology deliberately, trust me, you're not going anywhere. Your boss will say, "Can you shake it?" I know folks in their 60s who have never seen 10 million naira before in their lives. 10 million naira. Less than maybe about $7,000. Teenagers are making $7,000 a month, $5,000 a month. They have never seen 10 million naira before in their entire life. 6 decades of existence. That should tell you that it is possible to be in this world and struggle unduly for decades. There are people who have lived to the ripe age of 70 something, 80 something, and they died, and they never saw 1 million naira before in their entire life. I'm not trying to mock anybody, I'm just stating facts. Because they have the poverty psychology, poverty consciousness installed, you cannot go beyond your installed programming. See, everybody is running a programming. Everybody's reality is run by a programming. It can either be an empowered or empowerment programming or disempowerment programming. Wealth is a programming. Poverty is a programming. Lack is a programming. Abundance is a programming. Solutions incubation is a programming. Complaining is a programming. It's all programming. Reality is powered by programs. That is why you watch programs on TV, watch programs on the internet. It's a programming. The question is, what you consume, is it a programming of empowerment or a programming of disempowerment? These are some of the fundamental questions you must ask yourself. As an entrepreneur, this is Sunday Business Lessons. I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm talking to MSME founders, SMEs. Those are the people I'm talking to. I'm not talking to lazy ass people. I don't care about lazy people. I don't care about jobless people. I care about people who have picked up an enterprise, who have decided that I want to build a business around a solution I am working on, or a solution I've been able to work on. Now I want to build a business around it. Those are the people I'm talking to. Right? That you have enough money in your bank account does not mean that you don't have money problems. That you are rich even does not mean that you don't have money problems. And if you have money problems, it will never go away by itself. It will never go away by itself. I was raised by a father who I can say that is a loyal man, is a trustworthy man. If you commit anything to him, trust 100%. But he was terrible with money. Over your growing up in the 2 decades that I lived with him, this man made millions upon millions of naira. But this is somebody that I'm talking about in the 90s. Oh, I was born in 1985. I'm talking about in the 90s and in the 2000s. I left 2004 at 19. This man can tell us that, do you know that last week I had 400,000 naira, 1993. Do you know that I had 800K last week? And we are like, we don't see money now. You had, it means that you don't have it anymore. Reckless with money. See, the man who raised me should have been one of, as far as I'm still concerned, is still one of the most phenomenal people on this planet that I know. But you see, he would have been in a way more phenomenal if he was able to manage money. This man apprenticed with Volkswagen of Nigeria in the 70s. This man had an automobile workshop in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. It was one of the best in the country. And it was in Shagamu. People would drive their cars, their 40 cars, all the way from Ibadan to Shagamu, from Lagos to Shagamu, from Ijebode to Shagamu, from Odogbolu to Shagamu, from Ikene to Shagamu. Right? Even had an elder brother who was living in Akure. He would drive his car all the way from Akure. His driver would drive it all the way from Akure all the way to Shagamu, to his workshop to be fixed, because he was scientific in the way he came up with his diagnostics. And he didn't have diagnostic machine. That's the funniest thing. This is a man that could listen to your car and he could tell you that this and this and these are the things that are wrong with your car. That was the kind of man that raised me. You know, WAPCO is in Shagamu, right? NNPC2 has a place in Shagamu. Those staff, it was his workshop that they were bringing their cars. WAPCO staff, NNPC staff. But he was reckless with money. And the thing about being raised in an environment where they are reckless with money is that all the children raised in that environment will by default be reckless with money. For years, I was reckless with money as well. I made a lot of money on campus. I made money, but I came out of campus freaking broke. Freaking broke. Money that I would have built momentum on. I paid a good number of school fees. I was paying the school fees of people who had parents and grandparents. That was how reckless I was. Church, fellowship, now that one was fast. I could come to service with 40K in my pockets. But as I'm leaving that church, I'm living with nothing. Apart from maybe I paid tithe and offerings and special seed and partnership, because some of you are familiar with Christ Embassy. You know all the different ways where they get money from you. Apart from those ones, members will still come and meet me. Brush you. They used to be, Christians used to call themselves bro, sis, right? Brush you, please. I've not eaten since yesterday. 500. Brush you, please. I need, my parents are supposed to have sent me money for my handout, but so far they've not sent it. And the lecturer is just threatening 2K. Before you know it, I'm leaving that premise with 0 naira in my pockets. Reckless. After doing all of that, I still ended up broke. Still ended up busted. I remember those days. I'll be taking a walk like this. I will see something that look like money on the floor. I will want to pick it because I'm like, oh, my lucky day. I realize that it's not money, it's maybe paper or something. I was how terrible it was. Me that as a pre-degree, I was making money that was like an envy to students, to lecturers even. Because I was raised in an environment that was not powered by economic and financial literacy. A lot of so-called entrepreneurs of today were raised in similar environments as well. If they don't proactively work on themselves, trust me, no matter how high they go, it is so that their crash can be very loud. That is the principle of money. Anyways, I've said enough. It's already 8:13. Thank you everybody who joined. I appreciate you. It's about to rain and there is a very, very strong wind. If you are interested in having someone like me help you with shifting your mind, alchemizing your mind, right? You need to book a private session with me, right? If you're struggling in business, struggling in entrepreneurship, you need to book a private session with me, right? I've been on my entrepreneurial journey for 2 decades, since 2006. This year makes it 20 years, right? I have offered coaching and mentorship to literally hundreds of entrepreneurs, right? So if you need someone like me to help you pivot your journey, then you should send a DM and book a private session with me. Next week Sunday will be real estate investment workshop. Second and last Sunday of the month, I conduct the real estate investment workshop, right? So have a date with me, 7 p.m. Nigerian time, next week Sunday. I'll be here to share with you different ways you can explore real estate with little money or with a lot of money, right? Thank you everybody who joined. I appreciate you. For those of you in Africa, in Europe, in the Middle East, have a beautiful night rest as you go to bed tonight. And for those of you in North America and in Australia, enjoy the rest of your day and see you guys on my next live. Take care. Wait.